Kim. Live to be well. Live to be well with Dr. Kim, with Dr. Kim.
Good evening and welcome to Live to Be Well. I am your host, Dr. Kim Logan-Nowlin, all the way from Detroit, Michigan. What is Live to Be Well? Well, mind, body, and soul coming together collectively to live to be well. Hope you've had a wonderful day. Guess what I did today? I voted. Now, listen, I can't tell you who to vote for, but know the agendas of each candidate and make sure you vote. Please go out and vote. And I'm so glad that I did because I received a letter back that my signature didn't match. And when I went down to the voting commission office, I saw that I had signed the wrong name. So they went upstairs, came back down with my ballot, and make sure I signed it in front of them with my license. It was a little bit tedious, not really, but I had to go to two different places and get that done. But guess what? It's done. And I feel good about that. So again, cannot tell you who to vote for, but please, your vote does count. It does matter. And next week, we're going to devote the whole program next week to making sure that we are preparing you and that you are prepared to vote. And we're going to talk to two phenomenal individuals who really have a invested interest in what happens in our society, and especially here in Detroit. So I'm looking forward to that particular broadcast. Well, again, I hope you've been doing well. Tonight, I'm still wearing my pink. It is still breast cancer month. But guess what? We are concerned about all cancers. Somebody came up to me at church and said, you know what? I don't have breast cancer, but I do have cancer. And I need you to pray for me, Dr. Kim. And this particular person broke down and cried. Right at that moment, I stopped and prayed for her. I was on my way out to go to another program, but I stopped to pray with her. And she stated that we need to bring attention to all cancers. And we do that. And especially my daughter, Micha, she really emphasizes all the cancers and she's brought awareness to me. So to all of us who are dealing with, no matter what the cancer is, we want you to know we're thinking of you, we're praying for you, and you're not alone. But this month is our domestic violence month and breast cancer month. And so we want to focus in on that. And before I bring in my co-host and our special guest, Dr. Ricardo Whyte, and we want to definitely give him the right introduction. However, I do want to say you need to get tested. Do not put it off. Please, it saved my life. Early detection saved my life. I was diagnosed at stage 1, and my daughter was stage 2. And people say, well, do you feel something? Do you get sick? I felt nothing. I was going for my regular checkup, and they came back a day later and said something didn't look right. We need to have you to come back in. And they did a biopsy. And I had one cell that did not look completely right. Well, when I got into surgery, they found 2 more cells. So therefore, there were 3 cancer cells in my right breast. And this is why we must go. We must be tested. And you say to yourself, well, I don't believe in doctors. I don't want to go to the doctors. I don't want to know what they're going to say. I have a lot of people who tell me that, and they live in fear. And they say, I'm not afraid. I just don't believe in doctors. I don't want to go. Well, I believe God gave us the wisdom of doctors to help us, attorneys, dentists, plumbers, electricians. I guarantee you, if your basement backs up, all right, or if your toilet overflows, you're going to call a plumber because you can plunger all day long, but they've got to come in there and snake it out. Well, they have the wisdom and the knowledge, and they have gone to school to learn how to do that. So we need to be open to the wisdom of those who are trained in all areas so that we can be protected and be safe. So again, we live in a society where there's a lot going on, and people say, well, I'm just afraid. I don't even want to leave my house. You can't be a prisoner in your own home. You must get out and do whatever is necessary. So therefore, and we have to remember to help the elderly. Help the elderly. Today I went and got some mums for my neighbor's front porch. And I put them on her porch and to let her know I was thinking of her because she really doesn't get out that much. So I did that for her. So we must look after one another too. Your neighbors, go knock on the door, introduce yourself to your neighbors. Make sure they know who you are because you never know. Well, at this time, let me bring in my co host, my beautiful daughter, my firstborn, ML6. Good evening, ML6, all the way in Los Angeles, California. How are you, gorgeous?
Hi, good afternoon or good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening. So, Micha, let's talk a little bit about why do you think people are afraid to be tested? Let's put the definition of breast cancer up. Let's put that definition up. While Micah is talking about why is they put it off? They don't want to do it.
It's just the fear of knowing, and then when you know, the fear of how you may feel, how your family will react. It's just basically based around fear. And so people have this mentality to, I rather not know than know, because if I know, then I have to do something or take action, and then it may adjust my everyday life. It may, make me alter how I do things in life, and I won't just be living, carefree. I'll be living knowing this thing, and the pressures of it all. I think that's a large part of it. Of course, everybody's different, but in my belief is it's just fear. It's just fear.
And then the unknown, but we have no control over that. So a cancer that forms the cells of the breast. So we have irregular cells, and I had irregular cells. And he showed me on the screen, Micah, how the cells look and how they were supposed to look. And then I said, well, what's the next step? He said, we need to do a biopsy. And so you went through that also, right, Micah?
Correct.
And then they called me back, and really my OBGYN called me back and told me that it was malignant. And so I didn't get upset. I mean, she was crying. I said, all right, what's the next step? We had to meet with a tumor board. You also met with a tumor board, correct, Micah?
Yes.
And in that, how did that feel when all the people came together in that room for you?
Honestly, I wasn't paying much attention. I had my grandmother and Aunt Renee there.
Yeah.
So for me, I was displaced, so to speak, because I was just trying to wrap my head around
Mm-hmm.
how did we get here?
Mm.
Like, you don't normally, at that time, I did not know that young women got breast cancer. So I was really trying to figure out how I got here. So I didn't hear much of the conversation, to be perfectly honest with you.
Right.
Because my grandmother and my Aunt Renee were, if you knew anything about my grandmother, she always had a notebook. Like, she was always writing notes everywhere, and she always had a pen. And so I just kind of trusted them to get that information because I was completely disconnected.
Oh, yes.
But I will say, I do remember my breast doctor shedding a tear because I was her youngest patient. And looking at my chart, and she just couldn't understand how someone like me, who was fairly healthy, with the exception of this now cancer, I was healthy. And so she really couldn't understand, and it broke her heart. Dr. Melanie Scott, we were sitting in the room, and it broke her heart. And then when everybody sat around, and it was also interesting because my radiologist, my radiation doctor, was also my grandmother's radiologist.
Wow.
And so when we walked in, he was like, wait a minute, I know you, because he had seen me come into all of my grandmother's appointments. And so for him, he was like, okay, wait, why are you here? And so it was a shock for that. But when I look back over that, I think to myself, even having him as my doctor in those moments, like, God was preparing me.
Yes.
Because to have him as my doctor, and he was my grandmother's doctor, there was a connection. And it was like, okay, I'm gonna make sure you're good because I watched you take care of your grandmother.
Yes.
Had already formed a
A
relationship.
relationship.
Mhm.
What was your fear? Because can you, Michael, let me ask you, can you live with faith and have fear and, you know, being able to blend that together? Did you have faith for me and did you have fear for me when I told you that I had breast cancer?
Two things can be true, and I believe that God is okay with that. I believe that, especially when we're honest about it. Now, when we try to act like it, like when you try to be like, oh, it's a fake, but if you just step back and be like, okay, God, real talk, like I am terrified
Mm-hmm.
at this moment. However, I am going to put my faith and hope and trust in you that will outweigh the fear that I have. But the reality of the situation is, I know that I have this faith, but the human side of me, your daughter that you created, I have this fear.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is when you communicate that, I believe, when you communicate that with God, He then gives you that extra dose that you need.
Mm-hmm.
He saturates you. And then at some point, you're thinking like, oh, I once had this fear. And then you realize I don't have this fear anymore. I'm really walking in faith.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can say, I've seen him do it because I saw him do it with me. So I know
Mm-hmm.
that he can do it with you. And he may not have done it with daddy in the way in which I wanted him to, in the way in which I begged him to, in the way in which I pleaded with him to, in the way
Mm-hmm.
in which I hoped him to, because daddy, when daddy passed, that really rocked my faith because I just could not understand like why him,
Mm-hmm.
like why I had just found Miss Juanita. I was about to drive her back to Detroit to come live with you guys at the house, and I felt like me finding her just randomly walking down. Miss Juanita, everyone, was a very amazing woman that took care of my grandmother. Like, she understood cancer cells. And so I like happened to find her, and we were ready to hit the road that Monday. We were on
Yes.
the road, and daddy passed that Sunday, early that Sunday morning. And so I just couldn't understand, like, well, why would you have me find her if you weren't gonna allow me to drive her up to Michigan to help? It was just a lot. So daddy's healing was not in the way in which I was prepared for. Like, I really, really thought. And then when I think about it, I think about when Uncle Jim passed. Like, I remember being in the room with Uncle Jim and laying my hands on him and being like, okay, God, you've raised people from the dead before. You can raise my Uncle Jim. He's a great man. You can raise my Uncle Jim. Like, and as I'm literally in the room by myself in the hospital with him, feeling his cold body, I'm like, no, you can do this, guy. You can do this, guy. And so when God didn't do that for Uncle Jim, I was like, there's no way he's not gonna do this for daddy. And Uncle
Mm-hmm.
Jim passed from a heart condition. And then when daddy got sick, I said, there's no way you're gonna do this to me again. Like, you're not gonna take somebody else from me again. And so when that happened, that bothered me very bad. It shook me. And then when you got it, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
for real, this is what we doing. This is what we doing. So I really had to like go to him and be honest about all of my feelings and really just allow God to interfere and just do and be everything that I needed him to be for me and what I needed him to be for you. And he
Mm-hmm.
showed up in that way.
Yeah, he did. He did. And I appreciated that. Hi, Thomas. It's good to see you, dear. Talitha, oh, God bless you. Um, Micah has always been a very direct child. She speaks her mind and she is a very loving child. And so when I was diagnosed, her prayer was, please, God, don't allow mommy to go through what I had to go through because she's older and mommy will have to go through a lot. And it was a lot. And I did not want to do the chemo. And then, I'm going to wait and hold that till we bring Dr. Whyte in and being a medical doctor. So at this time, I want to bring in our special guest, Dr. Ricardo Whyte. And we are so excited to have him on the broadcast. God bless you, Dr. Whyte.
Good evening, guys. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. I think you and Micah are both on that California time. Good evening, good afternoon.
That's right, God's country, right, Micah?
God's country, yeah. So, Dr. White, please tell us a little bit about you, what you do, your specialty, and we'll get into your program and all of that a little bit later. But tell our viewers who you are, where you're from, and what your specialty is.
Sure. So yeah, as mentioned, I am Dr. Ricardo Whyte. I am an addiction psychiatrist. So I did my undergrad at Atlantic Union College, my med school at the University of Connecticut, and my psychiatry training at Loma Linda University, and then my addiction psychiatry at UCLA here in Los Angeles. And my passion for the human mind led me to head up Loma Linda's chemical dependency department for about 8 years. And now I'm the section chief of the psychiatric service at the Community Hospital of San Bernardino here in San Bernardino. So I love the mind, and I love interventions that help people awaken the brightness of their mind. When it comes to solving problems and addressing the issues that are challenging us, we have the gift of a tool called our mind that can literally invent, engineer, and orchestrate solutions, even partnering with people. So that's the tool that I'm the most excited to work with.
What do you find when people, individuals, the fear, let me ask that question. As an individual and as a Christian, you are a Christian,
Yes, ma'am.
can we blend or bring the two together? I have faith. I'm a Christian. I love the Lord, but I've got this breast cancer now. I've got prostate cancer. I have brain cancer. I'm addicted to cocaine and heroin. I don't think I can make it without that next drink. How do I get through this with faith and fear? How do I do that, Dr. Whyte?
Fear is a gift. Fear is an amazing gift when used correctly. And I hate to be taking a page out of the great Mike Tyson, but he talks about he mentioned how fear is a tool. So fear is what can inspire me. So let's bring it to the conversation of cancer. If I'm afraid of coming down with cancer, that fear could inspire me to scour the internet and identify ways to prevent cancer. I can make that fear drive me to be diligent about making sure that I'm getting good follow-up. I'm checking the credentials of my practitioners and making sure that their expertise positions themselves to provide me the solutions that I need, and that they're staying cutting edge in their respective disciplines. So fear can be empowering. Fear is limiting when we allow it to paralyze us.
Okay.
Paralysis is the issue. When fear causes us to basically decompensate to where we're not making intelligent moves, that's when fear is not helping. So by all means, you should be criticizing things, you should be assessing things, you should be evaluating things, but we should never be just worried. We should never just be worried. Worried is the waste. Worried is the stepping on the gas and the brake at the same time. There's no use for that. But fear can be a powerful tool that fuels productivity when harnessed appropriately.
Okay, so let's look at the scripture, Dr. Whyte. For he has not given me a spirit of fear, but I see you
But a
shaking your head.
spirit of power
About
and
love.
a sound mind.
Okay, so I like the way you are using that. That is powerful. Listen to me. Our viewing on is fear is a tool to help us to accelerate, to go into things, because we have to investigate. Now I have to tell you this story, and I want you to come back. So I'll let Micha tell you. The doctor called Micha. So Micha, go ahead. When I was in his office.
I was minding my business, and the doctor called me, and my mom was just really, one thing about my mom, since we're being honest here, she will, oh no, or she'll like, I don't want to, or just it's very anti things that are good for her because it's unfamiliar. So if something's unfamiliar and it's good for my mom, please know that she is going to. It's all of that. It's all of that. And so the doctor's calling me and he's telling me how she's really acting up in the doctor's office. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, and I took a deep breath and I was like, yeah, can I talk to my mom for a second? And I just told her, I said, what are you doing? Why are you fighting him? You're literally our only living parent left. Whatever that man is telling you to do, I need you to do it. And that's the end of the discussion. I got back on the phone with the doctor and I said, she's not going to give you any more problems. Whatever you need to do, you just do that. Because for me, I had already been through way more than what she was about to experience. And I know what I prayed to God for. And I know what was told to her. And I was like, what you're not about to do is waste my prayer. And what you're not about to do is sit here and act like you're not my only parent left. So let's get it together and stop all of that. And I was very serious. And to this day, even now, I still have to be like, I'm not here for all of that. Like, Mom, let me ask you a question. Have you put the humidifier together? Do you see? Wow. So she has this cough. And I'm giving her the tools so that help her sleep at night better, to help her breathe at night better. But because she's never had a humidifier before, because I have to put it together, it's 4 directions. It's 4, literally 4 directions, maybe 5. Put the humidifier together. You know what I'm saying? So it's just this constant thing because what is unfamiliar to her, it's a fear of hers, and she doesn't want to tap in. But like you just said, but if you tap into it, it will push you to greatness. So I'm glad that you said that because it's very powerful and it's a mindset change.
It is.
And once you change your mindset in a lot of areas and avenues in your life, you really can change the path and direction in which your life can go because your mindset has changed. What can be looked at as a negative can then in turn be a positive.
That's powerful, Micha. And one of the ways to leverage what you're talking about is when you make that list, if you put the why next to the item, so, assemble the humidifier because I want to live. I want to see my daughter get married. If you put that right next to that thing,
I want to breathe. I want
to breathe, but I'm taking it to what she really wants.
Right.
Like taking it beyond that.
Right. I want to see Aaron graduate.
I want to see Aaron graduate. Like it's like, wait a second. Let me get that done tonight. I get off this call. I got to get that done tonight. When we connect it to the things that are things, then become non-negotiable. This is a non-negotiable. This is a done deal now. Yeah. And that's the power of when we actually can leverage the why. When we can make the fear, because really the fear is that I wouldn't be present for it. That'd be the fear. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, no, I'm not going to let that happen. Mm-hmm. So no, fear can be harnessed, but the key is don't let it paralyze you. That's the key.
I love that. I love that. Today in my session, I had the 4P principle, and I need to apply this to myself, not just to my patients and clients. And I said to them, number 1, we need to have a plan. Micha came here and got that humidifier and is still sitting in her room. That doesn't make sense. Okay, so I'm putting that together because in the middle of the night, I'm coughing and it's uncomfortable, but all I need to do is use the humidifier. I need to understand the purpose of it. And also it gives me power to be able to sleep better, to have peace. So when you said that, it has paralyzed me to the point I don't even want to get out of bed. Because as soon as I get out of bed, because I was diagnosed with sarcoidosis and because of the scar tissue. So when I get out of bed, it's very uncomfortable. I start coughing and the humidifier. Now, when I visit my daughter in California, She has the humidifier going and this beautiful lavender smell. Oh my goodness, I sleep so good. My nasal cavity is open. I feel good. She has all these wonderful aromas. And she came all the way to Detroit to make sure I was good. And it's still in the box. So tonight is going up. Amen.
Let me tell you
Absolutely.
something. For me, Dr. White, 1+1 is going to always equal 2. Always, no matter how you look at it, 1+1 is going to always make equal 2. So, like, do what makes sense. It makes sense. If you experienced it here and you enjoyed your rest, and when she's here, I try to make sure that she's at peace, that she's comfortable, that she has everything that she needs. She's eating right. She's eating 3 meals a day. You know, we're walking, all the things. And my thing is, do that at home. Like, just because I'm not there, I've literally presented to you how to do it. All you have to do is duplicate it for yourself to be better at home. I tell her, Mom, you create your own schedule. You create your own schedule. If you don't want to start your day till 12 o'clock in the afternoon because you want to get up, you want to exercise, you want to be at peace, whatever, that's up to you. Like, you are your own boss. If you want to say, you know what, I want to take every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday off, you can do that. You have the luxury to be able to do.
I do.
So I have to like remind her when she's like, I can't do it. I said, no, you can do it. You're choosing not to do it.
Right.
It's a choice.
You need to take an hour in the morning to really get yourself to allow the mucus and all of that stuff. You're just getting up and going and da. And when you get into work, you're coughing, you're congested because you didn't allow your body to really come into. Like, I don't take work calls before 10 o'clock my time in LA. I don't.
What do you do for work, Micha?
I'm a radio personality.
Oh, that's hot.
So I don't take work calls, music calls, anything before I record my show the night before. I don't do anything because I got to get up. I have allergies and sinuses. I have to make sure I drink my hot water with lemon. I let that settle. I go for my 2-mile walk, do my jumping jacks, whatever I choose to do. Those are my things for me, because as I'm getting older, I'm like, okay, I got to keep myself together.
Right.
If the fire broke, I got to know it the next day. You don't know why? Because I can't breathe without it.
Powerful.
That's powerful.
I know what I have to do. So I try to help my mom incorporate that for herself. You make your own schedule. Prioritize yourself first. How you plan your week. You start with yourself. Give yourself that extra hour to 2 hours in the morning to really take care of Dr. Kim, so Dr. Kim can take care of everybody else. I'm not here when I call you and be like, Mom, did you eat today? Have you eaten lunch? Have you drank your water today? No, I've had back to client. Why? Why did you say I need to take this time so that I can take an hour to myself to drink some water, maybe watch something on YouTube that makes me laugh so that I can replenish myself because I'm constantly pouring out to other people. Yes. Let me take an hour for myself before I do this last half of the day. Why do I have to remind you to do that?
It's profound.
You know, Dr. Whyte, I am, at a point in my life that I can say no. I have been there for a long time. It's just that I have this fear if I don't make myself available. I got a second line now for my clients and patients to call me on. And I want to make myself available because I will take a call at 2 a.m, and what'd you say, Micha?
I don't like that because I feel like when you do that, your clients do not respect who you are. And I know you feel like you have to be there for them 24/7, but that's a crutch more for you than it is for them.
I disagree with that because, I do. Okay, Dr. Whyte, you got to jump in here now.
I got you. See, I mean, we work in health, right?
Yes.
We work in health, and it's all about your clientele. So there are some high performing clientele who, if that's who you're working with, and that's when they need you, you put a system in place. So now here is where I'm with you, Micha. Okay. You get a system in place so that both issues can be accommodated, because you got to be able to perform at your best, but at the same time, when you're working with a high performer, sometimes you absolutely have to be there. So it might be a phone that's actually manned by someone so that they can do a preliminary screen to say, okay, is this something where I need to wake her up, or is this something that can wait? The other thing that I find is a lot of times when you provide that to people, they're very respectful of it. They're incredibly respectful, so that they're using it very sparingly. I know when I gave select patients my phone number, I was not getting calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, because at the same time you can set boundaries. But I tell you this, when we're in healthcare, you're pleased that if the patient desperately needed you, they reached out.
Mm-hmm.
I assure you, we don't have any problems setting limits
Right.
with that being abused.
Right.
I promise you that. If it's being abused, it can be remedied quite quickly.
Right. And it
Uh,
doesn't happen often. That was an
exactly.
isolated incident. But, they will text me and they will say, when you get a moment, Dr. Kim, can you give me a call? So
Absolutely.
they're respecting the boundaries. And what I've done now in the morning, my prayer, my worship, my time with God, I'm eating in the morning. I'm taking care of myself because I do not want the stress, and the stress could trigger the breast cancer to come back. I
Right.
don't want that. Let's talk about good evening, Norma. God bless you.
Hey, Norma.
God bless you. Good morning. Hi, Heaven.
Hey,
Hello.
Ramirez. And we
Okay,
got Kalandra.
Calandra. Good
Right.
job, Micah. We have to take care of our mothers like
Well
they
said.
took care of us. Okay,
Well said.
Calandra. Okay,
Well said.
one of Micah's classmates. Let's go to some of the comments, and then Dr. White, we want you to tell us about your program and with addictions, because faith and fear also works with your clientele. Okay,
Absolutely.
let's go to some of the comments that were given to us with our question. Can you have faith and fear when addressing trauma? Okay,
Yeah.
so all
I mean,
right.
well,
All right.
it's so. Am I taking that?
Yes, take that. You're gonna read
You
that
know,
one.
I
Let's
feel like come on.
we're
Go ahead.
gonna read the comment, Dr. White. Read the comment from Nicole.
okay. So Nicole said there is no fear in faith, but yes, I believe both can exist at the same time. You can have faith in God and His plan while still experiencing fear just from being human. The fear does not mean you don't have faith, but it is our task to replace these fears with faith one at a time. So, words are incredibly powerful, first and foremost. Let's not forget that there is a healthy fear, for example, the fear of God. So there is a recognizing that God is so awesome that it inspires some fear. So there's that fear, but let's say that's not the fear we're talking about. We're talking about the fear where when you're confronted with something now, maybe you're seeing your mortality and you are afraid. I cannot overemphasize how critical it is that if it's there, you acknowledge it. You don't dismiss it, you don't squash it. If you're afraid, own that. Because what I'm saying is, you want to harness that energy.
Mm.
You want to harness that energy. You're going to use that. So for example, I mean, I gather your audience might be Christian, but the illustration that's jumping out to me right now is, you may recall when the children of Israel were fighting the Philistines,
Mm-hmm.
and they were afraid. The children of Israel were afraid, so they brought the ark into
Uh-huh.
their surrounding. And when they
Yes.
brought the ark, they started jumping up and down so much the earth started to
You
tremble.
tremble. Right. That's right.
The Philistine response was, oh my goodness, this is the gods that they conquered the Egyptians with. So
Mm-hmm.
now they got afraid and they were like, gird up your loins. And they handed the Israelites their business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because now they harnessed their fear and they just annihilated them. So I think we want to recognize that fear does not have to paralyze you. Fear does not have to undermine you. But I tell you this, when we're not truthful about how we're experiencing that fear,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it can undermine you. That's when it can ambush you because you didn't
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge I was afraid. If you gotta, if let's say for when people are fighting, or if you have a challenging thing, I don't know, Micah, maybe you're interviewing a person and you're like, oh my goodness, I want this to go really well. I'm afraid. What if I make a fool out of myself? Okay, well, let me funnel that fear into doing some hardcore research. I'm going to practice. I'm going to watch when they were interviewed at other times. I'm going to funnel that fear into activity where I'm over prepared.
Mm,
Let me check the microphones. Let me check this. Let me check that. Let me monitor the schedule. Okay, you know what? I want some extra time because I don't want to be just getting into that interview just in a matter of second. You funnel the fear into preparation, and preparation to the point where now you
mm,
legitimately drop the anxiety. You legitimately,
mm,
because you're over prepared. The
mm,
great Kobe Bryant, he talked about this. It's like he would be in super difficult, high pressure situations, and there was nothing to be anxious about because he was so over prepared. I've
mm,
done this so many times.
mhm,
So the thing is to let that fear guide your preparation. So I'm not afraid of fear.
mhm.
But it is concerning if we lie to ourselves about the fear and we then fail to harness the energy of it to guide our preparation. And preparation is one of the most powerful things we can do.
That is so powerful. Last week or the week before, I had 3 conferences and funnel the fear and preparation. I love that, Dr. White. And this one of them was for a national organization. And I did the local conference last year, but this year was the national. And I've done it 1,000 times. I know how to do conferences and seminars and speaking engagements, but it was something about that. So I went over and over my PowerPoint. I went over it again. I sent it to the director. She wanted to see it first. And she found one typo, I left out a comma or something. And she said, I fixed that. Oh, it was a parenthesis around the year. And she said, Dr. Logan, this is phenomenal. It is great. I had 39 slides,
Wow.
39 to
Okay.
do within 45 minutes, and then
Okay.
also question and answer.
Okay.
But I had to take that and really prepare and funnel that fear into preparation and prayer, and it was phenomenal. I received great reviews on Google, and now I'm getting calls to do even more conferences for them.
Oh.
So you are correct. Let's take that fear and funnel it into preparation. All right?
And now she also made a mention of the word faith, because
Yes.
I don't let's not miss the power of that word.
Yes.
Substance of things
Hope.
hoped for, evidence of things not seen. Faith is such of a powerful ingredient for our identity as creators. You
Mhm.
realize one of the most powerful things that we've been given is the power to create, the
Mm.
power to express our creativity, our ingenuity, the power to create solutions to our problems. And I tell you, any great thing that has been done, any great thing, it required a measure of faith. At
Mm.
some point in the endeavor, there was a feeling like, you know what, this might not work out. And what did they have to fall back on? Faith.
Mhm.
Substance of things hoped for. That means you have a substantive conviction
Mm.
that this thing will move forward, even with evidence to the contrary.
Wow.
That's how
Powerful.
powerful faith is.
Yes.
Even when there's evidence to the contrary, you're like, you know what, we're
Mm.
gonna just take another step forward. We're gonna take
Mm.
another step because I am convicted that this will move forward, even though there's evidence to the contrary. I will give birth to this child. Okay.
Mhm.
Even though there's evidence to the contrary. No, this
Mhm.
is going to happen. I will solve this issue, even though there's
Mhm.
evidence to the contrary,
Mhm.
even though it's not there right now, but having that vision
The
with the
vision.
substantive conviction. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, that's a
It-
powerful ingredient.
You
Absolutely
know,
powerful ingredient.
about I guess 3 weeks ago, my daughter was traveling from Nashville to Huntsville, and she called me, and she was a little bit upset. We're very transparent here, Dr. White, and I told her, she needed me to listen, because many times she's corrected me, Mom, I need you to listen, not respond. And I told her after she explained to me what was going on that this can be fixed. It's not life threatening. The cancer has not come back. What do you need? She didn't want to be intrusive of me. I'm your mother. That's what I'm here to do, to help you in any way possible. And it doesn't matter how old we get or our children become, they're still our children. And I went on to tell her that how my parents, especially my mother, when I needed something, she stepped in, she helped, whatever. And even when I was married, what do you all need? And so it happens. And so I told her to really, gird up your loins. Come on now. We got this. And you have a mother that supports and loves you, and we're going to get through this. So she went on through, did what we needed to do, she needed to do, and got back to California. And so that faith is important. And I'm glad you said vision. You have to have a vision. You got to see this thing through with God. You have to. Am I right, Dr. Whyte?
Well, it's so funny because why is vision so important? Because what you see, you move towards.
All right.
What you see, what you hold in your mind, you're moving towards it. So if you're seeing doom and gloom, guess
Ooh.
what? You're moving towards that. It's almost like a magnet. That image that you're holding in your mind, you are being pulled towards it. You get an image of a red Corvette. All of a sudden, you're seeing a bunch of red Corvettes. You're starting to see ads for red Corvettes. You're starting to see possibilities. I could trade this in. How much do red Corvettes cost?
Yes.
And before you know it, well, I noticed you were looking for red Corvettes. Are you interested in one of these things?
Yes.
What you envision, you're moving towards.
Yes.
And let me tell you right now, the way the mind, the way the body is set up, it is set up to support you in the vision of your choosing.
Come on, in the vision of your choosing.
Your mind is set up to help you and to support you in the vision of your choosing, for the positive or for the negative.
Listen, Micha, we're going to do a part 2, part 3 with Dr. Whyte. This is so powerful. You know what, Dr. Whyte? Yesterday morning, I was off yesterday, all right? And I always do the night before I do charting what I'm going to do the next day, because I see myself accomplishing check off, check off, check off. I call it my check off day. And I had to go to the post office. I had to go to UPS to mail the girls a box. I had to go take care of some business downtown. I had to make sure that my veterans affidavit was done. I had to call the Veterans Corporation, the VA, to get a letter. They said, oh, yeah, we can email that to you. Took that downtown. And then I said, check off, check off, check off, check. By the end of the day, I saw the vision of completion. And then it didn't carry over to today. Today, I had check off, check off, check off, check off. And, and I had everything. I got everything done because I need to produce some good fruit. And I want to see that fruit come into fruition. But procrastination and fear it paralyzes people.
Absolutely. Like you can even go with the humidifier. It's like, I think that humidifier is like this big question mark. And when it's a big question mark, you're like, I don't even know what's going to be the first thing. Contrast that with if you break that thing down into steps. Okay. Step 1, I'm just going to read the directions. I'm not going to assemble it. I'm just going to read the directions.
Yes.
Okay. Then step 2, I'm going to unbox it. That's it. I'm going to read the directions, then I'm going to unbox it. Okay. And then now step 3, I'm going to take 10 minutes and take a stab at assembling it.
Come on.
You now have a clear project. It's not just this big question mark, because that's what's paralyzing.
Okay.
But when you get a little clarity on, hey, these are the steps that I need to take, these are some of the hacks for how we avoid being paralyzed. And now we can move forward. Now you can put that right in the schedule. You know what? I just got to read I'm going to do that at 2 p.m. Simple.
Yes.
I'm not intimidated by that because I know I can read. I can understand it.
Yes.
And this is how you trick yourself, because guess what? You'd be like, wait, this was so easy. You know what? Let me just go to step 2.
Every time. And, Micha, I know you are itching to say something. I know you are, Micha. What?
I just listen. One thing about it, like I have the privilege. I say it is a privilege to know my mom.
Mm.
It's a privilege. I think of all of my family members, if there's anything going on, they would tell you with their whole lives. There's nobody that knows Kim better than Micha. I have been with this woman since 1982. I grew her body. We were at one point literally all each other had. And
Wow.
even at my young age, I like to think that I was pretty perceptive even as a young child. Just in terms of emotions, and just I'm such an empath. And a lot of my empathy, especially when I was a younger child, you know, she was hard on me in a lot of areas. I had this idea of perfection because I didn't want to stress her out, because I felt like she was already doing so much for me and us. And so like I had this thing that I had to, and even now it's just this thing of perfection. And I read something recently that said for a lot of Black women, oftentimes we don't even realize when we're going through anxiety or depression, because we feel like it's really this lack of perfection. And so we can't even settle in the fact that we may be feeling away. And it's like, if we're not doing everything right, if we're not doing everything in an alignment on what we're supposed to be doing, it makes us feel like we're losing in life.
Mercy.
And so for me, I'm going through a point in my life right now where I'm feeling like that. Like I'm not doing enough. I'm not really going for my potential. Certain things really aren't going the way in which I want them to go. And, you know, having to deal with that, and even coming to my mom sometimes, it's not that I want to quote unquote burden her, because I don't think that I'm a burden, because that's not what love is. Love isn't a burden. However, I do believe that there's a level of expectation that she has for me and that I also have for myself. And sometimes when those don't meet, that makes me feel bad. And so the same thing for her, when I know that she wants to do the thing, but she also needs that extra push to do it. It's like I have to constantly repeat it. I remember I sent her something to get for her lungs literally for 2 months straight. And I'm thinking to myself, I did the research, I sent her the links, I sent her everything. All she had to do was click the link, and by Amazon, it would have sent it, all the things. She wouldn't do it. Oh, what was it again? Oh, can you send me the link? She didn't want to scroll up to look for it. I would go back to our messages to find it again. She didn't want to do this thing. And I'm like, help me help you. But the really weird thing about all of this is when she wants to help me, it's like, take it. I gotta take it with no question. But when I'm like, Mom, let me help you, it's met with so much pushback. And I just be over here like,
I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna work on that.
Lord, take the wheel.
Take the
Lord, take the
wheel.
wheel.
Was
Lord,
that,
take the wheel.
you
know, okay.
you're such an amazing person, and I do have some more questions that are for you. And this is why you're here. We do this banter all the time. This is what.
Oh no, it's okay. I'm loving this. I'm loving this because you guys have a wonderful problem. You love each other and you want good for each other. Like that. That's a great problem to have. That's beautiful.
Dr. Whyte, we have a question for you on the screen. It's coming up. There's a question for Dr. Whyte. Diane Coles, I have a question for Dr. Whyte. Hi, Diane. Okay.
Hey, Diane. What an elegant name. Diane Coles. Love it. Like Dr. Whyte, is it true that self-preservation is the first rule of nature? I wonder where would that rule have been written? So what I would say about that question, Diane, is it's a powerful thing to watch the reflex of a person being submerged in water forcefully. It's a powerful thing to see that fight for life, that fight for vitality. On a lighter note, I don't know if you've ever watched a person almost fall, and it's just hysterical, that fight for preservation. So now I don't know what law or what rule you would find this written in, but I would say baked into the human psyche, we are empowered with some reflexes that aim at preserving us. Lightning fast reflex, hands on the stove, face being submerged in water, Like, be very careful when you're approaching a person who's, fighting for their life. So Diane, it might be helpful for you to contextualize that question. And so that we can unpack it even more. Do people fear the future? Absolutely. Especially when the future is unknown.
especially right now.
Um, I'm watching that interaction between Micah and Doc, and I think that's part of what's paralyzing to Doc. It's, I don't know exactly how to do this. The unknown. I don't know exactly. Micah's assembled it before. So she's gun ho. She's like, no, all you gotta do, you're gonna pop this, you're gonna pop that, you're gonna pop this. It's just like, next time, what you do is disassemble your humidifier and have her put it back together. But it's the unknown. It's incredibly paralyzing. So there are some reflexes that we have when we're facing the unknown. Typically, when you're stepping into something that's unknown, heart rate goes up.
Oh yeah.
Pupil size is going to dilate, and your body is making adjustments so that it can better respond to the unknown. We have such of an amazing body, but sometimes we'll turn around and we'll demonize that and call that anxiety and all this other kind of stuff. No, your body is making the adjustments. It's uncomfortable, but that's where growth lives. That's exactly where growth lives, in discomfort, in the unknown, in the new. Like, it's like when you put yourself in those situations with reason, growth happens. You get some funny stories. You get some awesome stories. Sometimes you get some pain, but I tell you this, there's growth and there's learning.
Wow.
So the unknown, of course, can be terrifying just by its very nature. But I tell you, in the familiar, there's no growth in the familiar. So
No, it's no growth because you're already comfortable in that state. You
Right.
know, you've got to be pushed in the unknown. And now, Dr. Whyte, I take that lung liquid vitamin every day, and my lungs feel so much better that I was pushing back on.
that's
Wow.
wow.
And I even got my reorder coming in. Okay. Let's read a couple of more questions,
Sure.
and then we want to know, Dr. Whyte, about your program. Okay.
Absolutely.
Al, let's go back to some of the questions. Okay. Randy, yes, we can have faith. Let's go to Beverly Dent. Hey, Beverly. In
Hey,
our
Beverly.
flesh, we have fear, but we pray for everything we need, everything our loving God has promised. It is God who supplies and strengthens our faith and meets our needs. I agree with that, Beverly. I do.
Agreed. And part of how he strengthens our faith is allowing us to be in, situations, especially if we're following his steps, allowing us in situations where sometimes you don't know everything. That way there's growth.
That is growth. Let me go back to the statement above with Brother Pullman. He said he had a book. Marshall, one of my CT brothers at my church who lives in Denver, Colorado now, I wrote a book entitled Hope in the Midst of Darkness on Amazon, a short 43-page read. Worth taking a look. I will do that, my brother. I'll order that, okay?
Thank you, Marshall.
Randy, yes, we can have faith and fear when addressing trauma. For example, you go to the hospital to have surgery on your knee and you have some fears about having the surgery on your knee. You can have faith that after your knee surgery, you will be able to walk again without any pain. Now, that's very interesting. Dr. Whyte, on November the 7th, I've got to have surgery.
Okay.
I've got a hammer toe.
Okay.
It was hurting, but it doesn't hurt anymore. Do I really have to have the surgery? Can I just keep putting it off? It doesn't hurt anymore.
You see, this is my issue with you. You do this because here's the thing, and this is in a lot of situations. Sometimes when you feel like it's getting better, you think that you don't have to take care of it, and in turn, it's actually making it worse because you're putting off what could make it better for the long term instead of the short term. That's everything in life. So you're gonna have that surgery, and you're gonna be fine. Stop playing with me.
I gotta wear a boot. That messes up my fashion.
All right, you can get it done like that. But it's again going back to what the good doctor just said. Like, we're gonna channel that into something else. We're gonna channel that into the fact that What you have to
Yeah.
do now, what you have to do now is going to help you be better in the summer. So when you step out, you're gonna be like,
All that
because
in a bag of chips.
you took care of it in the winter.
And that's powerful. And let me give you this little tip, which you already know.
Okay.
Because a lot of times when people are worried, they are focused on an outcome they don't want.
Hmm.
And so what you can focus on, Doc, is what is the outcome you're wanting? What
Yes.
is the outcome you're looking
Oh,
for?
to feel better.
So there's going to be some feeling. You want it to look right. Like too often, part of the fear is we're focused on the outcome we don't want.
Hmm.
So get into what it is that you want.
Yes.
And as you keep doing that, it's like, oh, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, there's research that's been done linking better outcomes to people envisioning the outcome that they want, as
Okay.
opposed to the outcome that they don't want.
Well, okay.
And then that's part of, like, you saw the smile that came across her face as she started thinking about it. I mean, like, this stuff is real,
I know.
like
Oh,
Hold
she
them in.
changed her state with her thought.
I did.
Smile across the face as she thought about the very surgery she initially talked about avoiding.
Hmm.
It's powerful. It's
The mind is
powerful.
powerful. The mind is powerful. All right, Doc. Look, we're gonna have to bring you back. Okay. Look at your calendar in November. All right. Okay. So now, Doc, tell us about your program, how they can get in touch with you. We need another 2 hours, but we're gonna bring you back in November.
Absolutely.
Tell us about your program.
Well, so I mentioned working at the hospital and working with patients acutely, but what if we could prevent breakdown? What if we could provide interventions so that people can actually move towards their peak performance, so that they can perform at their best? That's why I founded the Mastermind Institute. And what I saw was that after 20,000 patients, I saw that there are 7 vital areas of a person's life. A lot of times people aren't even aware of their vitals.
Mhm.
All of us on this call know that life balance is a myth, right? Especially when you're going after something
Mhm.
hardcore, like you're not going to be quote unquote balanced. Well, what we do have to do though is we have to rebalance. So you got to know what your vitals are, and you got to see that when one of them has been neglected and been kind of deranged, it's like, okay, well, now I got to redistribute the resources. I got to rebalance. And so we set up the Mastermind Institute, and we design products to help people with their balance. Right now we're focused on relationships, and we are targeting high performers. So sometimes when you're performing at a high level and you just keep focusing on that, your relationship can fall apart. And so right now I'm doing a consultation where we can provide you some preliminary tools to understand who you are, so that you can then, number 2, better manage yourself, so that you can then better understand who that person is, and so that you can then better manage that person. So we do an assessment and provide you with some preliminary recommendations, and then of course offer opportunities to go forward with us.
That's
So I think the link was featured,
yeah.
and so you'll get an opportunity to book a call and nice free assessment, and we just take it from there.
I think it's something wonderful, and I would love to have you come back so we can talk about the addiction. I
Oh yeah,
wanted to get into all of that, and then possibly Micah, my team, going through this program with you. I think it would be very beneficial for us to go through that.
absolutely.
Closing remarks, Dr. Whyte, then ML6, and then I'll close out.
Absolutely. Well, we were talking at the start of this. We were talking about cancer, and hey, with cancer, do you have to be just afraid? And there is some incredibly exciting research that is coming out. And there are techniques that are being used to better discover cancer in an early stage, where
Mhm.
there are more interventions, and interventions tend to be more
Mhm.
effective with early detection. And also some amazing therapies. When I was in medical school, I remember learning about the immune system. Like, you have a system that is capable of waging war on foreign invaders. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. But a lot of times we are not engaging in behaviors that keep that system ramped up and able to do its job. But so what are those things that we can do? Well, I got to shout out the book, Life Force, Tony Robbins's Life Force, where they're talking about this stuff. Again, if you're afraid, then let that fear, funnel that fear into becoming aware of where is cancer treatment and diagnosis going, because cancer is affecting a lot of us. I know for myself, my grandfather had prostate cancer, so I know I'm on the lookout for that, and I know a lot of people are coming down with cancer. About 1.6 million new diagnoses every year.
My goodness.
You know, and but there are exciting, really and truly exciting breakthroughs that are occurring, that are targeting early detection and interventions that don't require the negative side effects that we're all too acquainted with. So I think maybe on another program we can delve into what's
Yes.
being done. But
Yes.
this was super exciting. What a fantastic honor! What a pleasure to finally meet you, Micha. Your mom and I, we go way back.
Yeah.
But pleasure to meet you. And yeah, I would love to collaborate with you, however possible, sis. You're definitely a hero of mine.
Oh yeah. She's a doll. She's amazing. She's my hero too, Dr. White.
Oh, I was saying you're my hero. I don't know. I said you're my hero.
Well, listen. Well,
Right.
we support each other, and I thank God for you, Micha. ML6 closing remarks.
So I just want to really, really stress to everyone. I hate the fact that every time voting comes around, that we as a people, we have to beg and plead for our people to get out there and vote. That really gets up under my skin, but here we are. Please exercise your right to vote. I know everyone says that, oh, this is an important election. No, 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 no. Like, this is
This is a big deal.
This is a big deal. Like, I don't want you to think that it's not. Like, because what is at stake here is a dictatorship and joining of people on the MAGA side that could really like harm this country in the worst way. And I know people think that it's a lesser of two evils, and I'm not even thinking like that. I'm looking at the facts. I'm looking at what has been blatantly printed, what has been blatantly said, what has been blatantly put out there. And it is not a game. And as a female, as a woman of color, I'm not trying to be in the Handmaid's Tale. And if you don't know what the Handmaid's Tale is, please go look it up. It's a show on Hulu. And that is essentially what they're moving towards, especially for women. This is important. And get out there and vote. I know in the state of Michigan, it's a swing state. Do what you got to do. You know, my mom may not have told you to vote for her, but I'm all the way. I'm going for the female and every which way. And I believe that, you know, no politician is perfect. And there is it is a system, and that's to be understood. But the reality of the situation is this could get really bad. This could get really, really bad. And at the end of the day, the man is a criminal. And the main reason why he's running for president is because he doesn't want to go to jail. And then his buddy, Elon Musk, he too doesn't want to go to jail. And the two of them together is very dangerous for this country. And that is the reality of the situation. So get up, know your polling place, look it up, make sure that you're good to go, you have all your identification, and please go exercise your right to vote. Don't let anything or anyone tell you I'm holding my vote. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't be foolish.
I would just add to that. On Max, on HBO Max, right now, there's a documentary about the insurrection. Just watch the documentary. Just watch it.
It's a very simple choice. It's a very simple choice.
Yeah, just watch that.
Okay. Oh, I can see where this is going. We're gonna come back together. You know, with Live to Be Well, Doc, I don't know how you knew how this came about. After Arthur passed away, I was in a meeting with Al Rogers, and he asked me over and over again, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I'm done. I can't move forward." Again, that mind being very powerful, taking me towards a vision of I can't do this without Arthur. He asked me again, "What do you want to do?" And I said to him, "Stop asking me that, Al." Once again, he asked me again, Dr. Whyte, "What do you want to do going forward?" And I said to him, "I'm just trying to live to be well."
Wow.
And that's how Live to Be Well was birthed
Wow.
8 years ago.
Wow.
And my daughter and I have worked together. I did the broadcast by myself, and then I asked ML6 to join me because of all the experiences that she has with inside the entertainment world and with the news and her knowledge base. And I thought it'd be a powerful duo to come together and then bring on guests such as yourself to complement the broadcast. So I'm here to tell you or to share with you that Live to Be Well is about how we can improve and move forward towards the vision. Thank you, Dr. Whyte, of how we want to live and how we want to navigate that living. It's very important that we do not paralyze ourselves to go out and vote. I heard you, Dr. Whyte. I am no longer going to paralyze myself. I'm no longer allowing things to trigger me, Dr. Whyte. I'm going to allow myself to stay in a space of peace. And if someone does not understand that, then like my pastor said, block and delete. Micha has said that many times. If that person does not work in your peace of mind, in your space of mental health well-being, block and delete.
Mercy.
And oh yeah, she said delete them. And she has said 5 people is the people you talk to every day. You know, those are the people, the primary source of who you are. And if those people are not bringing you, productivity, being positive, you need to delete those people from
Amen.
that.
Amen.
So I want you to know Live to Be Well is about helping you to move forward, how to help you to accomplish. And let me say this to everyone. Dr. Whyte, ML6, and myself did not get here overnight. Al Rogers and others, we did not obtain this success overnight. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes us to put the energy into it and be able to build relationships, and how I met Dr. Whyte, to build relationships. So as we go forward in building Live to Be Well, we're going to bring some amazing broadcasts to you in 2025. Dr. Whyte is going to be on our team, and we're going to do some great things together. Dr. Whyte, we want you to stay on the broadcast when we go back into the backstage, and we're asking that you close us out in prayer as we prepare to go forward with a new vision. And I'm going to take a picture and send it to you, Dr. Whyte, of my new humidifier. All right?
I want that. Absolutely. Let's have a word of prayer.
All right.
Our Father and our God, dear Lord, we love this platform of Living to Be Well. That's what you've actually called us to. That's the gift that you've given us, to live, to be well, to create value. So bless us, keep us. You see the hidden struggles that we all have. Lord, we claim victory. The vision in our mind is one of victory. Please guide us as we, prepare to do our civic duty and vote, dear God. Please inspire us, oh Lord, to make a choice that builds our nation, oh Lord. And thank you so much for Dr. Kim and the platform that she has inspired. Thank you for the support of ML6. Bless us and keep us. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And like Dr. Whyte said, use the fear as a tool to perpetuate you, to propel you, to move forward. Dr. Vaughn, thank you so much. One of the great bishops of Detroit. God bless you around the world. Dr. Coletta Vaughn, a great woman of God. And Dr. Vaughn, I'm coming for you too to be on Live to Be Well. So let that fear push you, propel you to move forward and not paralyze you. All right?
Well said.
Come on now. Can we do that? Let's not be paralyzed. Listen, I'm Dr. Kim, and as we say, Dr. Whyte, on 1, 2, 3, live
to be well. God bless everybody.
God bless you. Good night.
Take care.